So my role today is to open the debate and to um, get in the future, actually, of the interconnected world. So my approach to big data is how to collect data, how does those data come from, and where does they come from, and how shall we use them. So if we have a look at the evolution of the information technology, we can see that at the beginning when I had my degree and I had a lot of calculators which were not so much powerful as compared to the one of today, and the way of interacting was totally primitive. So with those devices. So now 40 years later, we do interact with the world of calculation, everywhere, and we actually do not know where the data are, but we do have access to that richness through different devices, which are, of course, mobile, so laptops, the smartphones, and here we do, struggle and fight in that battle, and the biggest industries in the world are Apple and Google, which have their domain and are specifically inside that world. So what is the future now? We are in 2016, so what will happen in the future 5, 10 years? In a certain way, we'll have an evolution and revolution as well. So evolution because the devices with which we are interfacing with the cloud and Internet of Things, and that will be made through captors and sensors. Well, sensors which can feel, which can see, which can smell. Well, anyway, they really can do a lot. And my point here for the question is to see what happens. So if we live in that world with all those sensors, then does it have sense to interact with the internet world and different keys and mobile phones? So, in fact, what will the future be? Well, the immersed human in the digital world. And that is quite, difficult, and some are afraid of that because we're always be used to interact with the digital world with a certain distance, for example. But the future will not be like this. We'll be totally immersed in the digital world. And we'll have different opportunities, a lot of things available, and it will be so easy to talk to the world of internet that will have no need to learn to use a cell phone or a calculator, because we'll have an interaction with the digital world just as if we're interacting with us. So we are making part of that ecosystem. We've already seen that here on the screen, the Pokemon Go, and it is this game which is, so well diffused. It is actually an increased reality. What does that mean when you see people walking in the, even in America, it's quite risky because you can create accidents when you cross the road because you're looking for Pokemons. So with your mobile phone, you can imagine that those Pokemons are on the streets. So you go and try to collect them. So this is one example of what I mean by an digital world interacting with the real one. So we have those Pokemons which are on the streets, and you can see them as if they were real human beings. So that is the future. So you can imagine that all we learn today on the internet, on the interaction on calculators, will disappear totally. So what kind of app have we got in that world? We have different scenarios and possible evolutions also industrial evolutions, which are connected to that new world. So these are the most interesting apps in the smart cities, and then the next speaker will deal with different aspects on smart cities. But then there are the so-called smart cities. So how can they be intelligent? They actually collect data um, through data collecting. You're smart and intelligent, and you do elaborate them, and you offer services which are better, and citizens are better then. So Smart Water is an app for safeguard of water, and it is so important, because we have scarcity of water. So if you go in Canada, which is a great nation, very wide and very large and huge, and you lose 40% of water, I mean, you lose it, but how is it lost then? Because you have, losses, leaks, and what happens, or lack of efficiency in distribution. Because then, why do we have this? But probably it is the same in Italy, the same quantity. So the problem here is to go and see where you have holes on the pipeline. So where can you see them? How can we repair it? It is a vision to put a lot of robots together, which would work inside the water and identify the holes, and then they repair it. So small robots, very, very fast, and which work perfectly. But also pipelines for oil, and it can be useful when you have leaks. Well, robots are very useful, and for the environment, it's important. So smart traffic, then, it is how to handle traffic in the cities, and this is one of the main causes of our aggravation. And we are living in places where you have a lot of people, you have a lot of cars as well. So smart traffic is another app. Then, of course, smart energy, it is exactly what is linked to the grid of distribution of energy. So what happens? We'll have the swarm of devices, of electrical devices, and there are sensors, there are robots, and inside the pipelines, and for water and gas. But we can also, or oil, we can imagine drones. We can see them everywhere. In fact, in the US, you can see drones everywhere. And probably in the next following years, Amazon will bring your pack at home with a drone. So this is real, possible, and totally, near, it's not in 30 years' time. So what about the government? In Italy, they said their Industry 4.0. It is an investment of our government to ease the improvement of our manufacturing process. 4.0 is a basement. It is a key word. It is very interesting because it is a concept which is new, and it has been developed for a long time. It's not something new. In the US, in fact, it is industrial internet. 4.0 was born in Germany, and about 7 years ago, and the idea was to improve the way to build things. And as Germany is producing a lot, a great country for manufacturing, you have a lot of geopolitics problem. So manufacturing is, of course, being demobilized to the Eastern world. And then how can we keep manufacturing in our countries? It is to have it in a more efficient way, and also with less costs. And the only way to do it in a more efficient way is to introduce, in a massive way, automated systems. So how to introduce that in the factory floor? New machines, building things, so we deal with 3D printing. And it means that instead of, making a statue, you have a piece of marble, and then you create a different thing. So you build piece by piece the statue from scratch. So it is a way which is different to understand the building of objects, and you have the opportunity to interact with the digital world. So we can do design, and we send the information to the calculator, which will digitalize it, giving instructions to that machine to build that object. Very interesting, because you can in fact do a lot, customize a lot, and that is what people ask for. So you can build jewels, you can create jewels in Italy, for example. You can have industries producing jewels using that technology. And in fact, it is very useful to build objects which are very beautiful, but also very specific. So, 0.4 industry is based also on the development of new machines, and also because you manage to monitor what is being done by the machines. And this is the data which is collected by the results of manufacturing, and then you have improvements. So you can have smart machines, advanced analytics, which is big data, because big data means, of course, huge mass quantity of data, but also to have inside those data the best of information. And this is the key point to have that improvement for advanced analytics. And last point is that interface with the people, so people at work. So combining those three factors builds 4.0 industry. So how shall we invest in those fields? It's not clear at all. So even the government about incentives for the insertion or development of that way of thinking in the manufacturing field is not clear. We want to invest, but how shall we invest? What can be developed? So why do we have all that interest for 4.0? Because there is a potential economical development, actually $3 billion, or trillion, sorry, dollars. So this is why it is so important. And in order to see another field, we can see the automotive one. So, as you've all read, the automotive sector is very complex. You have autonomous driving, and then also vehicles-to-vehicles connection. So machines which have dialogue between themselves. So vehicles are not, isolated, but they do participate to an ecosystem. So, what are the movements or the directions which are being created in that world? First, the sensors. So as you see, the machines today, they have all of a series of things which can help us to improve our way of driving. But then in the future we'll have one very powerful sensor, a lot of radars and readers and other devices, which will give a very powerful tools to the car. So if you have a radar on your car, you can see on the angles what happens. And if you have radars all over the car, you can see also below, on the sides, behind. Anyway, you can increase your senses. And that will, create new things. And once you have a car with all those ways of understanding what's everywhere, then the future is to say, why not creating or giving new tools which would give which would be, also new aspects. So very interesting, because once you're thinking about autonomous driving, data, sensors, then the companies which are key points here are not the traditional ones. It is not General Motors or Ford, but it's then Google and Apple, and in fact they are amongst the companies that have invested the most in that field of machine, the future. And Apple has invested in autonomous driving cars even more than the sum of all the investments done to develop the Mac, but also iPod, iPhone, iPad, and so on. So they have invested less than what they did in the last years for autonomous driving. So why? Because the innovation, and big innovation in that sense, means that once you've reached a certain field, like cell phones, they have reached a stable position. But then according to the sensors, you can have these differences. So the big companies must reinvent the future, and this is why they look everywhere. So automotive field is very rich, because here again you have billion of euros involved. So it is a normal interest from the big companies to go and see that field. So you are in front of a company, and all of a sudden you have your competitor, which is not Ford but Apple. So it is an incredible change, and changes the rules. So this is the Google card, and then you can see that cars driven by themselves, so autonomous. In fact, you have companies which allow you to have like semi-automatic drive potentiality. Then why not seeing the future? The president of the United States said that we'll have a lot of future about new things, new aspects, and we have the death on the road, so too many. We want to cancel the accidents. And how to cancel them? If you cancel man driving, then you cancel you cancel accidents. So no text message, no drinking alcohol, no smoking drugs, and so on. Then no accident. And in fact, then you need to regulate it properly, because if a car is autonomous, then you must be sure that you have you have all of a series of positive aspects. So the regulation in the United States is really very interesting about that aspect. And we need to really solve the different problems that we have with the present situation and the different accidents which can occur every day. Is everything okay? Not really, because we've seen accidents. Well, Tesla accident, but this is one accident, but it's not even clear if the accident was due to autonomous driving, or because they were driving too fast in a zone which was not appropriate. So, different elements here. I've been driving a Tesla autonomous drive, and it is just incredible. It seems that you have a driver which is good driving that car. So this is the automotive field. Now the other big field for which we'll have a revolution, which is huge, is health. So how those devices interact. First, monitoring of our functions, and that is the human intranet, which is the intranet which is linked to our body, and that is possible through different devices which are quite common. The first steps towards that development, I have this device which will inform me of calories and how much I walked, how many meters and what speed and so on. So this is an app which is quite good. But then we have another app which was created before, monitoring your heart and see what happens. It is low cost, less than $10, so it will last 1 month and then you change it. Right, this is the idea. You have this device, and then you can send information on your heart, which are very accurate, much more accurate than the electrocardiograms or others, and that can be sent to hospitals or also to devices which would register those information, sending information if there is something wrong. So once we deal with human intranet, so our body becomes a system of information which tells a story, we can also imagine to go deeper. So not only the superficial part, but also the in-depth part. So this is one of the initiatives which has been launched by the US Braining Initiative 3 years ago. It was the year of the brain, and everything was studied about our brain, and then we deal with connection of cybernetic world of information with the biological world. These are some apps, and then we'll see probably other examples like chips you will find in the brain. It is really incredible because you open your brain, you put the chip, and then it is directly connected to your brain. So what are the uses of those devices? Well, it is already being developed, and the first experiences have been done 10 years ago. So it is not, done today, and the great evolutions have roots which are very, very profound, very deep, and people tend to forget this. But when you have Industry 4.0, where do you have those roots? Well, it was 15 years ago because it's new and we need to invest in competition, see the roots and also innovation. So this is it. And here again, those devices were, being studied. And how to use it? Well, this is interesting. You have how to cure, to save, to treat, and then you have the information, because it's quite different. And you have one therapy, deep brain stimulation, which allow us, through those stimulation, to treat different kinds of diseases, and to schizophrenia, Parkinson's disease, for example. So we do not know how it works, but it does. So this is one of the other points which is fundamental, that in the future we need to understand why some things work and other not. If you put the chip there, then you'd have these charges which are given, and you improve the operations, and then you can see what happens inside the brain. And the information that we have today makes us understand that cortex is very interesting, but most of the cortex, you must go deeper brain, which would control the whole stuff. So once you have that chip in the brain, you have, for example, for disabled people, the opportunity to connect it directly to the others. So if you've lost an arm during an accident, you can put a prosthesis, but then the control is difficult. So, if you connect those chips, you can work with that artificial arm as if it was a normal one. So, no need of rehabilitation and, in a non-natural way. So, interacting with the world will become like a normal one. So, then we have studies which dealt with the skin, artificial skin. So, you have like plastics, but then if you touch the skin, which is connected to those devices, the person's the person feels that if it were her skin, real skin, so sensible to heat, to pressure, to it can you can feel when you touch something. So it is a revolution which is quite high, wide, to improve our life. But quite worrying if you have a chip in your brain. How shall we avoid to hurt ourselves? It is all relative, of course, to the circuits which are integrated. So we can do actually through these electrodes, very small ones, we can see what happens, and the person is not actually realizing what's happening, so it's not neutral. Compared to our behavior. This is a startup, and this is the device which is inserted in those patients which have brain stimulation needs. It is a reality also for industry, and they start to, develop those chips. What are the potential problems? Well, first, to open the brain, put it inside, and then rejection could be that your body rejects that device, and then it's difficult to put it. So how to give power to it? And the fact that for all device you would create heat, produce heat, and have negative effects, and you can use it in a bad way. So think about privacy security. Once you have a chip in your brain, someone could, take your thoughts, see your thoughts, see what you think. This is not good, of course. It's not like privacy respectful. And then you could have hacking of your chip, so taking your brain in their hands. So this is totally wrong as well. But another thing which is important, once you have that chip in your brain which would connect to the outside world, why shouldn't we think of an interface with the internet directly? This is possible. Well, it has been done actually. Well, monkeys can move their arms in Texas, or like this, from Texas to Massachusetts, having the arms moving, to connecting into the thought, to the internet, impulses through the internet, get into the arm, and then you take something. So it is possible to do it. And we'll deal in the future with Internet of everything, not Internet of things of humans, Internet of everything. So Internet means infrastructure, of course, information. So we'll have no need to have devices which can enable us to interact with the outer world, but we must only think of interpretation of the waves in our brains and transform them in orders. So, in fact, it will be necessary to train the information. What about security now? Well, this is a great problem. Mainly for cars, vehicles. We've seen movies on the networks, yes. And hackers take a calculator, they make a vehicle driving. I mean, they can make it accelerate, speed up, turn on, turn off the engine, brake without having the user doing anything. It's like incredible. But this is a critical problem for security. How is it easy to get in a car and having the car doing everything? It's very easy. You have about 100 points possible. We're dealing with the cars of today, and we can already do incredible things. And the fact it's not happened because we do not have any money to do it. To monitor a car. So, well, in case of attacks, terroristic attacks, it could happen. You can isolate a city. in a few seconds. So, at the end of the day, to conclude, I would like to say that our point is to play with those worlds as innovators, and we start doing, and before thinking, we do, we act, you know, and at the first storm, it just collapses. So our objective is to change the plug and pray, which is, you hope it works. It's something more robust, which is to build something which has the opportunity to stay there for thousands of years, so to work properly. We have a lot of young people here. Please remember that you must keep in mind those aspects in order to avoid, disasters. You need to have good foundations, and the fact you're projecting those things is linked to math, to physics, but you must do it in a proper way, in an efficient way, and in a safe way. So we must really think of that. The Internet of Things 4.0, the swarms, which are those, different elements. Let us, focus on that aspect, and we must see the potential for that ecosystem, which is totally different from the one we know today. Right, so no time for dealing with robotics, but you can develop, robots, and they have the same face as ours. They can smile. They can also have certain kind of feeling or emotion. So who will work in the future? The robots or ourselves? This is the great question. Probably a lot of robots. And then, what about our jobs? Jobs will change. They will be totally different. But then we must wonder about the future, about the persons which, will have new opportunities. So new scenarios to be defined in our paradigm. So we'll see, of course, the robots, how they will work, how the robots will work, and how the robots will create revenues as well. So is it necessary then to see the different industries working together? Yes, and we must have a great role of research in that sense to see the future development. So investing in research is the basis. Countries which do not invest in research will, of course, not be able to keep up with that trend. So it is really fundamental to work on research. Thank you so much.